Q&A. My name is Tim Douglas. I'm an elementary teacher at the International Community School.
Hi, my name is Patricia Segura, and I'm a TSA at Fremont High School and currently the chair of the bargaining team. I also participated in the bargaining team that led us to a strike and a stronger CBA.
Nice to see you again on the Zoom, Patty.
You too, Tim.
Our focus today again is safety and crisis distance learning. After an update, we will take your questions. If you have a question about the MOU or the negotiations, just type it into the YouTube comments section of the live stream. As we receive your questions, we will do our best to answer them. There will also be bargaining members answering questions within the chat. If we aren't able to give you an answer, we'll work to get an answer in our next update. Today's live stream will be about 30 minutes. This weekend, we will continue exchanging proposals, especially around crisis distance learning for special education educators and support staff. With that said, I'll turn it over to Patty, who will give us a brief update on safety, crisis distance learning, and also what happened yesterday. Patty?
Thank you, Tim. On Thursday night, we received counters from the district around distance learning, visual and performing arts, special education for distance learning, and student supports. We have since countered on crisis distance learning and visual and performing arts. We will continue to exchange proposals throughout the weekend. Our proposed language will improve crisis distance learning by using best practices, prioritizing small group differentiated instruction, family wellness check-ins, unit member prep, planning time, wraparound services for students, and demanding the district provide appropriate technology to all students.
All right, thank you, Patty. So let's get to the questions. Thanks again for tuning in, and we appreciate all your comments and questions. We are OEA. Okay, our first question, Patty, comes from Alexis Ferreri. I'd like to know what happens if we can't agree by August 10th. What does the plan look like?
Thank you, Alexis, for that question, and Tim. We have changed our direction in terms of how we bargain. Initially, we were going to bargain just criteria 1, but we knew that was going to be hard. There's a lot of intricacies in terms of determining the data and pushing Alameda County to share the data as a citywide. So there was hardships around the first criteria. So what we've decided is that the one area where we do have agreement with the district is around distance learning. We will begin the year that way. And we have focused our negotiations this week on focusing around distance learning. And that's why most of our proposals this week and this weekend are around that, to be able to get the school started. And if needed, we can continue negotiating the reopening of schools in a later date. Let's see, next one. From FRC 7468. Can you please explain the difference between OEA and OUSD's work hours? How long is the workday? How long is synchronous? And how long is asynchronous time?
Good question. Thank you for that. So our MOU is using the instructional minutes from AB 77. That's been our guide for synchronous and asynchronous minutes. We want to protect time for teachers to both engage in a live way with their students, but also protect time for teachers and members to call families and to develop curriculum and to plan. So the AB 77 language really is guiding our work. We believe that if we provide the framework and the protection of that time, that teachers will do what's best, knowing how to work with their students in their community. Anything you want to add, Patty?
No, thank you.
Okay, here we go. Here's another one from VS Swim. Is there only going to be crisis distance learning this year, or is there going to be return to school in some form this year?
Thank you. Going back to the question Alexis made, we are beginning the year in distance, crisis distance learning, not knowing what will happen with the pandemic. And that's why we're holding strong on our criteria, because we want to make sure that our sites are safe before going in, that the cases are close to zero, that hospitalizations are near zero as well. So we want to make sure that we are safe to go back to work before making any decisions of in-person instruction. So we can't determine that now, but we really want to have tight language around our criteria in order to ensure the safety of our colleagues, our students, and our community. You want to add anything, Tim?
I think that was good. Thank you, Patty.
Let's see. Katie Toms asks, what happens if school starts and then they will tell us to return?
Yes, another really good question. So as Patty mentioned earlier, our focus right now has been crisis distance learning, but we also know that the governor and the state is beginning to align itself with guidelines about what will happen with in-person instruction. We have yet to flush that out. It is definitely something on our mind that the reopening of schools and in-person instruction would expose students potentially and teachers. That's why we keep going back to our safety criteria and really holding to that. So obviously there would have to be language around what happens when we go back in person. But again, that's why we're holding so strong to our safety criteria before we move to any kind of in-person instruction.
So I see another question in here around the timeline. You know, just going back to that, we can't have a timeline because we don't know what's going to happen. So we're trying to tighten up our criteria so that they are determining factors that will allow us to go into a safe person instruction whenever that criteria is met. And therefore we cannot provide dates, and that's what we're pushing on. Are you bargaining around the delay of computers, no instruction until students have necessary technology, Tim?
Another really good questions. Thanks, Patty. So we know that to improve crisis distance learning, we need to guarantee the access for students and families to technology. It's definitely something we are pushing the district to hold them accountable. We know that they are working to provide that technology, but again, as we got that update this week, it's not going to be ready for the start of school. So I think, again, this just goes to show how we really want to slow down the process and make sure that we are providing the services that students need. Again, we know that crisis distance learning cannot really successfully happen if students and families can't get access online. So we, again, are pushing the district to provide that for families. But we also know that there are certain limitations to that. So it's definitely something we realize the more technology and the more computers we can distribute to families, the more successful we will be with crisis distance learning. Okay, I'm going to throw you a question about hot topic here, the mini masters. Okay, I'm concerned about the second half of courses and mini master kids will literally have a 7-month break by the time they had the class in March and the time in November. So it's about mini masters, Patty. And did we accept mini masters?
So we are still bargaining that aspect around the scheduling. The district really wants to push on minimesters, and we disagree. We would like flexibility at the site level to be able to determine what is best for their learning community. So we are still bargaining that, and we're pushing for the flexibility around that. We understand the gaps that minimester creates in terms of students not having access to a particular content and the learning loss that happens during that time. So again, our stance is to give flexibility at the site to best serve the students. We have not accepted mini-masters. That can be an option within our language, but yet to be negotiated. You want to add anything, Tim?
Thanks for that, Patty. Okay, another good question here.
Here, let me throw you one, Tim.
Okay, thank you.
Can the start of the school be delayed until all students have access?
Again, our priority really is going back to what you said earlier, Patty. We really want to reach an MOU, and we are eager to do that with the district. We, again, know that we have agreed that we will start the year in crisis distance learning. We hope that that agreement really does provide the basis for our negotiations. And will allow us to really focus on that start of the year and improving crisis distance learning. So again, I know folks are eager about dates and thinking about what happens when what happens, but I mean, our answer is that we're really working hard, long hours, late nights to really get this done, because we want to be back with our students. We want to be working in a crisis distance learning in a safe way. So we're really focusing on that.
The way I interpret that question, Tim, is also if we can delay it until we can guarantee student access to technology. And under the AB 77, there's a requirement that the students have to have 180 days of schooling. So because of that reason, and not wanting to change our calendar year, because a shift in student days would mean a shift in calendar years, which we would still have to bargain. I don't think that is a possibility, because that would entitle the district to, well, we would have to bargain the impacts of shifting the calendar year, which would increment the cost of the school year. So I don't think that is a possibility. And that's why we're also having difficulties around achieving our professional development for the 2 weeks that we are demanding, because that would reduce the number of dates that the students can actually have in direct instruction with the teachers. So it's complex, but under AB 77, we cannot reduce the number of dates that we have with the students.
Thank you for that, Patty. That was a great answer. Okay, here's a question about substitutes from Laura Rice Hall. Will teacher substitutes be trained so they can work side by side, classroom teachers to support distance learning?
Our contract, we have imposed out substitutes, and thank you, substitutes, for pointing that out. When we shifted to focusing around distance learning, all of the sub language was under compensation, and thanks for pointing it out. We have now put a placeholder because we need to discuss as a whole team, and we'll be in our next round of negotiations. We will be incorporating a lot of training for the substitutes, definitely, and possibilities to be part of a learning community. So.
And again, I think just to build off that, Patty, we know that just like in the spring that educators and school sites made it work. We distributed tech, we distributed food, we reached out to families. And so again, this is why we believe in the school sites capacity to make decisions about how to use substitutes and how to maximize substitute time for asynchronous and synchronous learning, and how that could improve crisis distance learning.
This one has come out multiple times, Tim, and it's talking about addressing the issue of the 25,000 donated computers by the CEO of Twitter and the family survey to determine who gets them and if the charter kids are getting them before our kids. Thanks
for that question, Pamela. I cannot speak specifically to what the district is planning with the 25,000 laptops. I think we were all digesting that information this week and had certain feelings about it. But our intention is to very much push the district to guarantee and provide access for students. We really are challenged when the district tells us that 40% of students didn't engage in crisis distance learning in the spring. We are challenged by that because that essentially means that 40% of students didn't have the proper technology to log in. So we believe that holding the district accountable to provide the technology will actually improve participation, will improve crisis distance learning. And while we can't speak specifically about their plan to distribute, we do know that pushing the district to provide that technology will improve crisis distance learning. Anything to add, Patty?
No, we're just knowing that we are demanding that our students have access to technology, and we will hold strong on that. On a similar tip, Tim, there's a question from a new teacher here. Do teachers get OUSD computers from the district, or do we have to use whatever we have at home?
Ooh, okay, so it's 9 years since I was a new teacher, but I believe new teachers will be provided with a laptop, with a Chromebook. Yes, teachers will have access, and we're pushing for the hotspots or the other technology or adaptations that teachers would need at home. Anything to add, Patty?
Yeah, just in terms of the language, the district is saying whenever possible, they will give teachers the supplies needed in terms of technology. We're saying that no, that every one of our members should have access to either the Chromebook computers and hotspots whenever they don't have access to internet. So we're holding strong on that, given that it's necessary to be able to implement distance learning. You want to throw another one, Tim?
Okay, here we go. This one looks like it came up more than once. When will you present the Black Sanctuary Project language?
We're trying to solidify the crisis distance learning language now, and we will still have a lot of negotiations moving forward, but hopefully within the next week, we will be able to roll that out. Let's see. How many instructional minutes is OEA bargaining for?
Another good question. So as we mentioned earlier, our guidelines are coming from AB 77. So if you, maybe someone can throw a link in the live stream, but if you do Google AB 77, you can see that they have required minutes. Again, what we are committing to is protecting 50% of those instructional minutes as synchronous and 50% as asynchronous. We believe that'll give teachers the time to engage in small groups, to do live daily instruction, to interface with families, to meet with one-on-ones, and then also protected time to develop curriculum, to plan with teachers, to grade, to provide comments, to create Google Classrooms, whatever it is. So our language is really coming from AB 77. That is a state requirement. So we are legally required to follow that. The district, I think, is trying to push more minutes on us. And as teachers, we know that more is not always better. We know that, especially in elementary, more time on Zoom and forcing us to be in front of our students isn't always the best and developmentally appropriate for those students. So we are really pushing for that flexibility and protecting that time so that teachers can do what they know is best and use their professional discretion to engage families and provide them with a better crisis distance learning this fall. Okay, Patty, I'm going to throw you one. Here we go. Coriander Melios asks, what is the max time per day we are asking students to be on a screen doing schoolwork?
So the maximum minutes, and I'm thinking high school just because I'm a high school teacher, labeled in AB 77 is 240 minutes. So as Tim was saying, we're proposing that half of that time be synchronous instruction and the rest be asynchronous. So a divide there for the students. Anything to add to that, Tim?
Yeah, just again, with the AB 77, we're really holding to that. And like Patty, like you said, protecting that synchronous, asynchronous time.
All right. From Jason, what does it mean to have near stable or downward trajectory of new documented cases of COVID? How will that be determined? Thanks.
Yeah, okay, another good question. So we're really trying to drill down on these definitions. Again, that's why we're holding so firm to our safety criteria. We are working with the Alameda County Public Health and the nurses to have a liaison for that data. It is specifically and relates to the percentage of cases. It gets very technical here, so I don't want to say anything that's not scientifically correct. But it is our focus to disaggregate the data to specifically address Oakland, and that's why that new language specifically addresses zip codes. We know that if an average of near stable or downward trajectory in Alameda County, that might not accurately reflect what's happening in Oakland. So that's why we really drilled down and got clear on that language. If you read the language, it'll be probably more scientific than I can say it right now. Anything you want to add, Patty, about that?
If you want the details, look at our last counter in regards to criteria 1. Like said Tim, there's so many little intricacies of the specifics that were in terms of the rates, the hospitalizations, and we want, like Tim said, we want to disaggregate the data so that we're looking at Oakland data, given that 40% of the cases of the Alameda County were just in our city. So please look at that document for the details. Let's see. Questions from Samia. Will librarians be able to go into the library during distance learning to collect books and or create book bags to send home with families?
Good question. Again, we know that teachers are eager. We know that y'all are an active group out there, so teachers are always figuring out how to get access and how to provide best practices for their students. Again, going back to what Patty said, we believe that we need to really buckle down on those safety criteria before there's any access to school sites. I think it's pretty simple that we need to make sure that we're all safe. Okay, going for you, Patty. So again, going back to that 180 days. So a question from Rosa. I'm confused by the idea that we will still have 180 days of instruction if we are lowering our number of instructional minutes and we are considering the mini-mester, which will slash our time in half.
So if you were, last Friday when Governor Newsom did his report, he addressed in his guidelines that he wants daily contact with students. And that's where the 180 days comes from, where we need to have access to our students on a daily basis for 180 days, but there is a reduction in terms of the minutes to able to fulfill AB 77. But the days have not minimized. So it's the amount of time that we have with the students on a daily basis. You want to add anything, Tim?
Yeah, thanks for that, Patty. And just to build off that, this question gets to why we want to call it crisis distance learning, because we know that it's not, we won't be able to get to everything. So we're pushing the district to have an adapted scope and sequence that is developmentally appropriate, and we're looking to co-create that with the district and make sure that students have access to the skills that they will need to show growth, but also that the plan is developmentally appropriate.
All right, Tim, let me throw one your way.
Thank you.
I can tackle it first and then you can add anything. From Laura Rice, I know that has come back to us. How will students with severe disabilities be supported for distance learning? I know that the special ed cohort of folks in our bargaining team are working really hard to make sure that there is appropriate technology for students with special needs. We've been looking at things with closed captioning, different types of technology for different disabilities. So really trying to make sure that our students have access to their instructors with appropriate technology. So I know that has been a big priority for our SPED team. Want to add anything, Tim?
No, that sounds great. Yeah, I just know that our SPED team has been working really hard on this. I've been so inspired and I've learned so much from being on this team. It's incredible to have experts and specialists from all over the district. So they're working really hard to really build that language that does protect and serve those students. Okay, let me throw you one. I don't think we asked this yet. Is there a chance we would revert back to the spring MOU? This is from Candace Chung. Is there a chance we will revert back to the spring MOU if agreement isn't reached by August 10th?
We're still a long ways, even though it doesn't seem from August 10th. Our goal is to finalize the distance learning part as soon as possible so that we don't revert to anything and that we actually have a stronger beginning of the school year. I know people are getting impatient and know that we are trying to do our best to settle a good agreement to the reopening of schools and distance learning process. It's July 25th. And we're hoping that we will have an agreement before August 10th. Anything you want to add, Tim?
No, I think that covered, Patty. I think it's a reflection of how eager we are as teachers to know what's going on. And again, we are just trying to keep safety in our minds and keep everybody safe. So we appreciate the questions, and we also feel that way too. We just are really are sticking to safety and protecting our community.
Let me add this question on there, which I think was a clarifying. If the MOU is not in place by August 10th, should we start any distance learning with our students? And I want to answer that is yes, you do not want to prevent or not instruct. Your job is to instruct, and we have an agreement that we will start in distance learning. So everybody should plan to start the year on August 10th and providing the supports for the students. Currently, we are demanding that the 2 weeks be for training. And again, I'm hoping that we finalize this component of the MOU by August 10th. Anything else is you do have to report to work the first day of school. And actually it would be 3 days prior to that, right, to do professional development. But you should be providing instruction to students if we still don't have an MOU. If we do have an MOU, then you will follow those guidelines, whether you're doing professional development or direct instruction. Anything you want to add, Tim?
That was very clear. Thank you. I appreciate how eager you are for the difficult questions. Thanks, Patty. Okay, I think this has been coming up from members a lot. From Aaron Rodriguez, will there be the possibility of access to printing on site to create packets for students to have on-screen learning activity?
In our last MOU, we had that the district was responsible to providing those, and we continue to stand on that ground. We don't want our membership to go to sites. We are looking at that language, but currently because of the safety issues, we are asking that people do not go to sites to do any of the work. And again, once our safety criteria is met, we can actually have conversations around what is safe to go in and do that. But until our criteria is met, it is not safe to go to sites, and we ask that you don't go to sites. All right. We have a comment. Thank you, Rosa, Aguirre, Alexander. Thank you, team. You guys are rock stars. We really appreciate you all, your questions. We know we didn't get to everything. Just know that you have a great bargaining team working for all of you guys, for our community, for our families, and that we're going to keep fighting to get the best that we can to go and teach in the safest way and not risk anyone's health. So thank you all for your questions. Tim, any last words?
Yeah, just thank you, Patty, and thank you, everyone. It is it's really powerful to be at the table and sitting down with the district and to feel collective action. You know, it is, I know that people's WhatsApps are pinging and people are so connected, and it is, you know, it's inspiring again to see how many people are stepping up, and it's so powerful to feel your comments and to feel your feedback and to know that while we're sitting down at the table that we have hundreds and thousands of members out there who have our back and who are fighting with us as well. So we are very hopeful that we continue to work and sit down with the district and make progress. And thank you all for coming in and tuning in today, and look out for the next update. Okay, Patty, have fun on Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
You too.
Nice to see you. Thank you.